Hello, I'm Jacob, Community Manager with Paradox Studio Black. Today we're covering Dev Diary 164, Realm Maintenance, written by Alexander Oltner, our game director. This Dev Diary is about the upcoming free update, which we've dubbed 1.15 Crown. Similarly to free updates of the past, the Crown update will be pretty big. It has reworked systems, new features, and a myriad of bug fixes and balance changes. All of the changes that we'll go over stem from the fact that we spend a lot of time updating, tweaking, and bug fixing existing systems and features as part of our parallel development track setup. Depending on the status of an individual track, people from that track are assigned to what we call Realm Maintenance, where we focus on improving areas of the game that we either feel aren't good enough or that you in the community are asking for us to change. Usually, a lot of Realm maintenance time happens at the start of a new development track, as there are a few bugs in newly developed content during, for example, the concepting or pre-production phases. During Realm maintenance, we have improvement days where we add as many smaller improvements and quality of life changes as we can, and sometimes is also used to polish promising projects from the Blackforge Jam, an internal sort of game jam where we experiment with new CK3 features. The Crown update contains over 4 months worth of Realm maintenance, including more than 200 bug fixes. We won't be able to go over everything in detail just yet, so instead we're going to focus on a few highlights. Last year we teased a court position rework, and since then we've refined it and added even more improvements. In short, the rework aims to make court positions more interesting and engaging, adding tools, adjusting costs, improving quality of life, and making the UI in general less of a hassle to use. The intent is for court positions to be more widely used by giving them new effects and tasks that allow you to deal with many different situations. The new layout allows you to see more positions at once and presents them in a more immersive way. All of the information is still there, of course. Most of what you don't need to see at all times has just been moved into the relevant tooltip. What you need to know at a glance is still visible. At the bottom of the list, we've added a new foldable category that reveals all positions that you could potentially have. It'll exclude anything you cannot possibly get, such as adventurer officers for landed characters and vice versa. The tooltips will tell you what you can do in order to get those positions. Now, when it's more important than ever to keep certain positions filled, we've added the option of choosing to fill the position automatically. This comes in 3 flavors depending on your preference: an event giving you the option to choose between a few good candidates in your court, auto-assign the highest aptitude courtier, or auto-assign with an event notifying you if there are no available candidates. This can be toggled per court position, and different positions can have different settings. A lot of court positions were never used because it was hard to justify spending gold on their salaries, so we decided to transfer part of this cost into prestige, and we've lowered salaries across the board. Prestige is a resource most players are more willing to part with, but up until now there have existed very few prestige income sinks, so you'll need to be careful that you don't spend it all. All of the new tasks have costs. Some of them cost prestige, some cost gold, and some even cost piety. It's these tasks where the brunt of the cost will come from, but they are naturally opt-in, and you can use them to handle tricky situations, toggling them on and off as you see fit. Most positions now also come with an interesting effect for the holder of the position, such as 20% stewardship experience pictured above. This also means that we've opened up a lot more positions to be held by vassals, which is interesting because you can now request court positions from your liege, allowing you to reap some of the benefits that they convey, such as Royal Architect now reducing your build time and build cost, or the Court Poet position now reducing your stress gain while improving your general opinion and diplomacy lifestyle XP. You can also grant court positions directly via a character interaction now, making it easier to, for example, appease angry vassals with ceremonial positions. There are way too many new court position tasks for us to go through them in detail, but pictured as a small sample of what you're going to see in-game. Most court positions now have 3 tasks to choose from, with a few having 1 or 2. These tasks cover a wide variety of things you might want, from wet nurses instilling virtues into your children, to your antiquarian searching for rumors about locations of rare artifacts, to your high almoner promoting the opinion of zealous vassals, among many, many more things. Many of the things you can now do didn't have any tools before, such as reducing the stress of characters other than yourself, which can now be achieved via the Entertain Courtiers task for the Jester. You can also use various positions and tasks to slowly increase your legitimacy. The Seneschal gives a small passive trickle to legitimacy, while the Court Poet can give you bonuses to your legitimacy percentage gain modifiers as part of the Write Poetry task, and the Court Musician's Bolster Legitimacy task. The Court Musician is also now available to Duke tier characters and no longer requires Royal Court. It's worth noting that all tasks that increase stat points, such as Exercise with Ruler, are balanced in such a way that you cannot gain skills unless the holder of that position is better at the skill in question than you yourself are. We've also taken this opportunity to move the entire hunt sighting system into these tasks. choice. If you want hunt sightings to improve the success chance of your hunts, you now choose what your master of the hunt should focus on finding. This makes the system less random and gives the player more agency. There's more that we've not talked about. To see the full extent of changes, please refer to the changelog linked in the bottom of this video's description. Another feature we teased last year was the addition of automated armies, an opt-in feature where the AI can take control of your armies and fight wars for you. The intent behind this feature is to allow you to focus on other things while engaged in trivial wars, and to allow players unfamiliar or otherwise uninterested in warfare to enjoy the game more. If you are an experienced player, we still recommend that you control your armies yourself, but give it a spin if you're just clearing up those 3 counts bordering your empire. Now, there are 2 crucial parts to this feature working well: seeing what the AI is thinking, and for the AI itself to play well. There's nothing that differentiates automated armies from how the AI normally plays, so improving one naturally improves the other. Sometimes you have an ally in a war where you have no idea what they are thinking. Perhaps they're just standing there, moving erratically, or just generally being unhelpful. Quite often, this is because of something that the player is not aware of. Perhaps they're resupplying their armies, guarding a siege, or something else. To make it more transparent what an army is doing, we've added icons with descriptions that explicitly tell you what the AI is up to. This also applies to your own armies if they're currently automated, giving you an overview of what they're doing. In the screenshot shown, the right army is actively besieging a holding, while the left one is guarding the siege while standing in a province with enough of a supply limit to currently support it. There are a multitude of different states for the AI to show: moving, attacking, moving to siege, supporting the player, and others. Hopefully this helps to clear up most of the uncertainties regarding why they're doing things that might otherwise appear inexplicable. We've also been working a lot with Warfare AI in an effort to make it better. We're not promising miracles, but we have spent over 2 months of dedicated programmer time in an effort to nail down bugs, improve subpar behavior, and change behavior that, while intended, just didn't feel right. This includes a lot of cases where the AI would be indecisive, passive, or dance between provinces, which was often caused by various competing systems trying to avoid attrition, match supply limits to stack sizes, or other edge case bugs. These fixes, in combination with the exposed AI ally logic above, results in much more clear warfare where it's easier to understand what the AI is up to at any given moment. We've also taught the AI about war score, making them pursue actions that would give them higher war score, rather than arbitrarily choosing actions based on a set of circumstances that were always fixed. For example, when you're fighting a war as a player, you're less likely to pursue battles if you know that the siege you're currently about to finish would cap out your war score. You're also less likely to pursue battles if you're already capped on battle war score. They're now also much more likely to siege using stacks with siege weapons, and will try to shuffle their siege stacks around in such a way that their ongoing sieges aren't broken in the process. Now, there are still going to be edge cases where unwanted behavior happens, and we'll keep fixing these issues as we find them, but hopefully you won't notice nearly as much strange AI behavior anymore. One area of the game where our normal warfare AI does not perform as well is during Crusades, so we've decided to take a suggestion from the community and give these great holy wars some special treatment. Taking the one-size-fits-all philosophy and throwing it out of the window, the AI now has a set of special procedures that they follow during these grand-scale wars in particular. First, there's a set of smaller tweaks. The AI cares less about attrition and supply until they've made some headway, and they will try to boat hop less often or otherwise take short sea paths. When you're going from well-supplied Europe by boat, disembarking into low-supplied dry lands with an army of potentially hundreds of thousands of men, there's no way you can find enough supply for all of them. The AI is now aware of this, and when they start assaulting the war target, they will temporarily ignore attrition until they've gotten enough of a beachhead that they can support the size of their units. This makes the initial phase of a crusade much more likely to succeed, as the attacking AI won't desperately shuffle their troops around trying to find enough supply for all of them. By boat hopping less, they will prefer land routes to their targets, avoiding the -30 advantage penalty that comes from recently disembarking. Now, for the meat of the changes. The attacker in a Great Holy War will first find a gathering area, and then move their armies to a staging area. For the first stage of a Great Holy War, the attacking AI will find a good supply area where they can gather their forces. As stacks of units are raised across a large part of the world, they'll need some time to gather and should do so in a safe place. In the example shown, we have raised a crusade against Jerusalem, so Roma with its surrounding counties is deemed both safe and close enough to the target to be designated as the gathering area. You will see an icon on allied AI units with text that says where they are intending to gather so that you can follow them there as well. They will gather for several months before setting off to the next step of the journey, the staging area. The staging area is the closest friendly or neutral area to the war target. In our example shown, it is in Byzantium. The attacking forces will make their way there before starting their assault, which means they will arrive as a much more unified force. This also means that they won't immediately attack from the water, avoiding disembarkment penalties and ensuring that their stacks have an acceptable degree of supply. Instead, they will most likely march in via land, taking a modicum of attrition along the way, but ultimately mustering a much more successful assault. Now, the testing we've done reveals that the attackers are usually more successful but can still lose. Though now when they lose, it's less because they frustratingly trickle in across several years with disembarkment penalties and no supply, and more because the defenders have a homeland advantage, as it should be. The character interaction menu has also received a facelift, with the intent of cleaning it up and making interactions more intuitive. Several categories have been removed and merged into other categories to keep the overall number of them down. We've added colors to these categories so it's easier to tell at a glance which one you need. You can now easily see if a scheme is personal, hostile, or political, with the predicted scheme difficulty shown next to it, making it easier to see what you could be pursuing without having to delve into each individual interaction first. As we've moved several interactions to no longer be common and only shown in certain submenus, we've added a way for you to select your favorite interactions. Favorite interactions will be shown in their own category at the top of the interaction menu, allowing you to see what you think is important first. Wherever it makes sense, we've also added a quick interaction button that contains a collection of relevant interactions for that context. These buttons have been added in various places, such as for your head of faith, on your administrative liege, or on administrative governors in this theme view. If you're a modder, you can also easily make more custom contexts. You can also now right-click to raise your armies in a specific area, so you no longer have to first move a rally point there. This simplifies the act of raising armies and prevents the mistake where you can accidentally raise your armies on the wrong side of your empire just because you moved your rally point there during your last war. It is not impossible that we will remove and replace the rally point system entirely in the future as a result. Going hand in hand with the court position rework, a new court position has been added for independent rulers of administrative realms, the Eparch. The Eparch focuses on improving your capital in various ways. The tasks are expensive, but the effects are significant. Being the Eparch is also very attractive for vassals, as they get a significant influence boost. Going hand in hand with the Eparch is the new Capital Magistry building, which improves the aptitude of the Eparch, among other things. It can only be built in the capital of an administrative realm. Not everything will be easier for administrative realms though. We thought it was way too easy for them to hold on to their lands, even when engaged in civil wars or otherwise weakened. So we've added a new CB that can only be used on administrative realms, Seize Peripheral Duchy, that allows you to take any duchy that is outside of the empire's de jure for a very low prestige cost. This CB has 3 times the siege and battle war score for the attacker, and a significantly faster ticking war score, making it the perfect way to reclaim lands from an otherwise preoccupied empire. Alongside this, we've also reworked the Order Mass Arrest decision to be a character interaction. You can now use this on all noble families and not just powerful families, as long as their estate is located within the capital. We've also tweaked the options for when you restore the Roman Empire, such as offering a path to become Hellenic without activating Roman hard mode, as well as making said hard mode more enjoyable by tweaking event frequencies and removing parts of it that made little sense, such as increased disease rates. The clan government is one that is both fairly underplayed, according to our telemetry, and that the AI struggles in playing well, often underperforming significantly. This has prompted us into looking into doing something to make them more interesting and less frustrating to play. When managing tax jurisdictions, it's a constant battle to find competent tax collectors. All you have at your disposal are your unlanded couriers within a decision with a fairly long cooldown, which leads to a frustrating time as you often end up in a combination of not having anyone to assign, or if you do have someone, they're more than often not terrible for the role. The various tax decrees also felt underwhelming, with the vast majority of players simply opting for the Zakat one as it increased your gold income. All of this has prompted a host of changes to the feature. Alongside a general facelift to the user interface, we've opened up the possibility for vassals to be tax collectors. This makes it significantly easier to find tax collectors and to find good ones. Similarly to how we handle court positions, landed tax collectors get a penalty to their aptitude, but on average, it's much easier to find good tax collectors because of this change. Clan rulers now also don't have to worry about being allied to all of their vassals, as only powerful vassals will expect to be allied to their liege. This makes you able to focus on pleasing a select few characters in the realm without having to suffer a permanent -20 opinion with every vassal. You also no longer gain a legitimacy penalty for marrying lowborn characters as secondary spouses. And to preempt exploits, we've also made it that switching to a lowborn spouse as your primary spouse triggers lowborn marriage penalties. This means that as long as your main spouse is highborn, the remaining ones can be lowborn. The AI has been updated to always try to set the spouse with the best stats as their primary one, as long as that doesn't trigger lowborn spouse marriage penalties. All tax decrees have been updated to have more interesting and modern effects, including systems that have been added since tax decrees were added, like legitimacy, danger, and plague resistance, and enabling systems that are logically connected to the decree, like raising for Ghazi. These changes match the clan realm's more volatile nature, providing bonuses that are more relevant and interesting to choose between. They should now more closely be able to match the power that feudal realms can muster with their vassal contracts. All commander traits are now tiered traits that are leveled up by taking actions related to the trait itself. Commander traits now start out less impactful, with effects weaker than they currently are. Through wars, battles, and sieges, you can now level them up, potentially reaching heights that were not previously possible. A fully leveled military engineer reduces siege phase times by 40%, while a fully leveled flexible leader reduces army defensive bonuses by 80%, and so on. To level these commander traits, you need to do whatever makes sense. To level up aggressive attacker, you win offensive battles. To level up military engineer, you complete sieges, and so on. The higher the commander's martial skill, the faster they will level up their traits. This also means that a commander with a high-level commander trait can be extremely valuable, as replacing their accumulated knowledge of warfare is not a trivial task. The Barber shop has been updated with several new categories, and items have been reshuffled to allow for a greater degree of customization. Many items previously not accessible have been added, such as some Byzantine and Jane clothing, and you are now allowed to freely change eye items, face items, crests, veils, and special crowns. We've made extra care to address pain points such as not being able to remove glasses or veils, while simultaneously allowing you to create combinations that you weren't able to before, because more customization is better customization. We found that late-game culture maps were quite often boring, with the culture map gradually becoming more and more populated by small divergent cultures. This is fine in the case where these divergences lead to interesting new cultures expanding their presence on the map, but often it wasn't so. We've tweaked the AI to be more inclined to promote their cultures under certain circumstances. Central Germanic heritage cultures within the Holy Roman Empire will now want to promote culture in Sorbian culture counties. Very small cultures will want to grow if they're below 10 counties. Imperious cultures with a powerful culture head will want to grow to a decent size of 35 counties. Cultures with less than 5 counties are more likely to be promoted by other cultures with the intent of reducing the amount of small and orphan cultures by the end of the game. This makes the culture map more dynamic, with more interesting results every game. We've added several new options to the Realm Stability game rule based on community feedback, and a few extra for good measure. You can now set stability to only affect the AI, and there's an additional setting that avoids changing the frequency of peasant and populist factions, as those could become too frequent or infrequent depending on your setting. For those that enjoy the occasional Scourge of the Gods conqueror but think that 5% is too much, we've added an additional rule: low random with a 0.5% chance of it happening. The message settings window now has a history log of all feed messages, so you can browse through them at a later time. We've also added 2 community requested message settings: scheme advantages and non-dynastic courtiers coming of age. There are now new indicator texts and filter options for finding children without guardians in your court. This is present both in the right-hand side court window and in the character view. 2 new major decisions have also made their way into this update, both focusing on forming new empires: Beth Narain for rulers of Syriac heritage and the Empire of Hindustan. When adding new decisions for creating new empire titles in Crusader Kings, there are 2 different things we look for. One could be an interesting alternative history empire for a historical group or region, like Beth Narain. Another is to look for what great empires existed during the historical timeline, but which currently cannot be formed in the game itself. The Islamic conquest of India is not something that happens in every game, but when it happens, we rarely ever get something like the actual Delhi Sultanate. The new decision allows a Muslim ruler who controls a fair chunk of the north to move his capital to Delhi or Lahore, while creating a new empire title that incorporates any held line in the 3 Indian empires. If you have roads to power, it will also give you the administrative government, though one with hereditary succession instead of acclamation. That's it for this dev diary. The 1.15 Crown update will soon be in your hands, and we hope that it'll be to your liking. As mentioned before, you can find the full changelog of this update linked in the description of the video below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more information about Crusader Kings 3.